Your screen is full of spreadsheets. Your fingers are flying across the keyboard, and you're doing absolutely nothing productive. But your manager just walked by and nodded approvingly. Mission accomplished. Yeah, that wasn't you being lazy. That was you performing work instead of doing work. Welcome to task masking. They call you dishonest. You're actually adaptive. They call you fake. You're actually strategic. And here's the part that makes it worse. You know you're doing it. You finished your actual work 2 hours ago, but you can't tell anyone. So you open more tabs, you type emails that don't need to be sent, you adjust fonts, you reorganize folders, you look busy, you look stressed, you look valuable. Sound familiar? Today we're breaking down 3 psychological reasons why task masking became your survival skill. Let's talk about why. Here's the thing about modern work. The actual work? Invisible. You solve a problem in your head, looks like you're staring out the window. You finish a project efficiently, looks like you didn't have enough to do. But what is visible? Activity, motion, the appearance of effort. So your brain learns something crucial. When bosses can't see your thinking, they measure your typing. When they can't track your problem solving, they track your presence. When they can't quantify your value, they quantify your busyness. You're not faking productivity to be lazy. You're faking it because invisible work is dangerous. And research on what's called proximity bias shows people who are visibly busy get perceived as more hardworking, even when they produce less. Think about it. 2 coworkers. One's frantically typing, responding to every Slack message instantly, always in meetings. The other quietly solves complex problems at their desk. Who looks more productive to the manager walking by? The busy one, every time. Your brain picked up on this pattern. You learned to add performance to your work. Not because you're dishonest, because the system often overlooks quiet competence and tends to reward loud mediocrity. But then something weird happens. The more you taskmaster, the better you get at it. You develop tactics. Always have a spreadsheet open. Strategic mouse movements so your status stays green. Headphones on even when nothing's playing. Furrowed brow. Urgent tone in messages. You're not being manipulative, you're being strategic, because you watched what happened to people who worked efficiently and then sat quietly. They got more work, or worse, they got labeled as not busy enough. Here's the really interesting part. Most knowledge work is impossible to measure. Factory worker, you can count widgets per hour. But you? What's the metric for thought through a complex problem? There isn't one. So companies measure what they can see. Meetings attended, emails sent, hours locked. And when your performance review depends on metrics that don't measure your actual value, you optimize for the wrong things. You're not gaming the system, you're playing the game it created. And here's what nobody tells you about knowledge work. The best work often looks like nothing. The insight that saves money happened during a shower. The solution to the impossible problem came during a walk. But try explaining that in a performance review. Try defending, "I spent 3 days thinking," when your colleague spent 3 days in meetings. The system doesn't reward deep work, it rewards visible work. So you learned to make your work visible, even when that means adding theater. Picture this. You finish a project on Monday that's due Friday. You could submit it now, but you don't. Because if you do, one of 3 things happens. They give you more work, they think the deadline was too generous, or they assume the project wasn't that hard. So instead, you hold it, you tweak it, you reformat it, you ask unnecessary questions, you schedule a check-in meeting, you make it look like it took all week. Not because you're lazy, because efficiency is a trap. The faster you work, the more they expect. The quieter you are, the more invisible you become. And invisible workers are the first to go when budgets tighten. Okay, we need to talk about why this pattern exists, because you weren't born strategically wiggling your mouse. Modern workplaces unintentionally created this. Most companies don't realize they've built a culture where visibility trumps value. Your manager walks by, sees you typing frantically, impressive. Sees you feet up, eyes closed, thinking, nice break you're taking. The system accidentally overlooks the very behavior it claims to want. Deep focus, efficient work, thoughtful problem solving, all of it can look like slacking to someone who can't measure output. And here's the darker truth. When layoffs happen, who gets cut? Not the loudest person in meetings, not the one with the fullest calendar, not the person whose Slack is always active. It's the quiet ones, the efficient ones, the people who got their work done without fanfare. Because when managers have to make cuts and they can't measure actual value, they cut based on visibility. You learned this. Maybe not consciously, but you watched it happen, and your brain adapted. Task masking isn't dishonesty, it's camouflage. It's survival behavior in an environment that punishes authenticity. Here's what they don't tell you about people who fake productivity. You're not lazy, you're camouflaging. Yeah, you're not dishonest, you're adapting to a system that often overlooks efficiency and tends to reward performance over output. The real work? Invisible. The deep thinking? Looks like daydreaming. The problem solved in your head? Looks like you're doing nothing. So you learned to add theater, the typing, the tabs, the urgency, the stress signals, not because you're a fraud, because the system taught you that quiet competence often gets overlooked, that finishing early often gets you more work, that solving problems quickly can make you look underutilized. And in a workplace that can't measure your actual value, visibility became the only currency. That's not you being fake. That's you surviving a game where the rules punish the wrong things. But here's the truth they won't tell you. Most of your coworkers are doing the same thing. That person who always looks slammed? Probably task masking. That colleague who sends emails at midnight? Scheduled send. The one in every meeting taking furious notes? Might be shopping online. Everyone's performing because everyone figured out the same thing. Actual productivity is invisible. Perceived productivity is what gets you kept around. So maybe the answer isn't better time management. Maybe it's recognizing that you're not the problem. The system that requires performance art just to keep your job. That's the problem. Now, the survival tactic nobody teaches you. The strategic authenticity system. 2 levels. Level 1. Output documentation. Document everything you complete. Keep a running list. Send weekly wins emails to your manager. Make your invisible work visible on your terms. Don't wait for annual review to prove your value. Control the narrative. Level 2. Strategic visibility. Schedule focus blocks on your calendar. Post occasional thinking through X problem updates in Slack. Make your process visible without performing busy work. Let people see the work, not the theater. Show them thinking is working. Bonus tactic. The honest conversation. When you finish something early, don't hide it. Say, I finished this project efficiently. What should I tackle next? Train your manager to see speed as strength, not threat. Redirect efficiency instead of camouflaging it. Pick one. Start this week. The goal isn't to stop task masking cold. It's to slowly shift from performance to proof, from theater to transparency. So, the next time you catch yourself performing productivity instead of being productive, remember this. You're not lazy. You're navigating a broken system. You're not dishonest. You're adapting to a workplace that struggles to measure what matters. And in a workplace where efficiency often leads to more work and appearance matters more than output, that's not moral failure. That's rational adaptation. Your work is valuable even when it's invisible. The system just hasn't figured out how to see it yet. Now, tell me, what's your go-to task masking move? The strategic mouse wiggle? The urgent font adjustment? The email to yourself first? Drop it in the comments. Be honest, we're all doing it. Bonus question. Have you ever finished your work early and then spent hours looking busy? Or are you the person who actually works all day and everyone assumes you're slacking? If this video made you feel seen, hit subscribe. We're here every week, breaking down the psychology of work that nobody talks about. Because understanding why you are the way you are, that's not just interesting, that's powerful.